Hi there, it's just me, coming to you from a secret location on the run. I don't have a house anymore. I sold that. We're on our way to Brazil, and welcome to VTS16 for the month of June 2006. I bring you the VTS from the lovely confines of a hotel room somewhere in upstate New York, visiting friends and family. In the meantime, we're going to get into doing VTS16. I hope you guys are going to dig what we're into. We're going to continue what we've been doing in 14 and 15. Now, just to reset, in VTS 14, I went through and thumbnailed out a scene and described how I would go about animating it through a dialogue track. It's a test dialogue track for a short film I'm working on. It's my own short. And so I thumbnailed it out and explained all the different acting choices to you and all the different things that I wanted to try and do. Last month, VTS 15, what I did is I started translating those poses into the computer. And so I spent some time showing you how to operate, how I push my puppet around to kind of recapture or reimagine those thumbnail ideas into actual performances with the puppet. And we got about 2 poses in. And so this month we're going to pick up and go right from where we left off and try and pick up the rest of the poses. If we don't get finished this month, well, we'll pick up and we'll finish next month. I want to make sure I take our time and do it right. And animation takes time. And one thing I spend a lot of time on is blocking, because it helps me capture everything I want to do and express the idea. And after that, a lot of it's just cleanup. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do this month. So without any further ado, let us move on to the thing we want to be doing.
Okay, just to reset where we've been, we were animating out this one scene that I had done. If you want to check out this scene, you can go ahead and pick up yourself VTS 14 or 15. We've been with this one for a little while, and for those of you who are new to the VTS this month, go ahead and do yourself a favor, and pick that stuff up, because we're in progress here, and it won't make too much sense to you. I mean, it'll make sense. I take that back. This lesson will stand on its own, but it'll make a lot more sense. It'll feel part of a cohesive part of the whole if you get 14 and 15 while we're at it. So anyways, we have a scene where, let's go ahead and take a look at the JPEGs here of the thumbnails. We have Murray waiting, and then he hits this pose for Space Marshal, and then he hits another pose for reporting. It's kind of just a slight reversal of the line, and then he hits Sir. Okay, so those are the things we're going to be doing. And so we've done this one, waiting, and then this one where he hits the Space Marshal pose, and he's trying to impress the boss. Okay, so he's trying to be eager beaver, over the top, super do it kind of guy. And if you pick up VTS 14 and 15, you'll learn a lot about who this guy is as a character and his motivations and all that stuff. And I won't repeat that too much right now. I'm trying to keep this month's video a little bit shorter than the other ones, just because they've been running long lately, and the uploads are starting to, I don't know, I think it's just getting a little out of hand, so I'm going to keep these things short. So anyways, let's move on to the other poses that we have, and then we go here in the computer. Here's Murray waiting, and this is the low-res version of him. And let's see if my hotkeys work. Oh, right, they do. If I select him here, and I can put on the higher res version of him, you see he's kind of waiting, hopeful for his boss. And then he hits this pose like Space Marshal, we reverse the line, and he's really trying to put one over for the good, really impress the boss. And so what we want to try and do is continue on with that third pose, where he kind of leans forward on that little conspiratorial, like, reporting for duty, sir. So let's go ahead and start constructing that. Again, you'll notice I'm doing this on successive frames. That's because I want to try and animate along the lines of every frame is actually just another drawing. And right now I haven't spaced my drawings out. I haven't timed them out or anything, because I just want to worry about the pose first. I'll worry about the timing a little bit later, but I really want to get this pose working. Okay, so I'm moving his head, trying to reverse this line a little bit. And we want to open up the face a little bit, kind of like lean the head forward. We'll go ahead and get the torso working too. And the eye line's a little off, but that's okay. We'll start fixing that. Rotate the head a little bit. And we are in auto key, you'll notice. That helps me kind of just test things out a little. I used to not like auto key very much, but I've grown to like it more recently because now I feel more comfortable with what I'm doing. So it doesn't bother me too much to use it. Although sometimes I do like to turn it off, just to keep things simpler. All right, and get that arm down. Get this arm back a little bit. What we're trying to do is build a pretty decent looking flow of the line right now, and still keep a lot of that attitude going. So get the head a little bit more, get the eye line just a little bit more where it was, and I can use the caret keys, the period and the comma key in Maya allows you to jump between keyframes. So he's looking in this area right here, and now he's looking up, so I want to make sure that we keep the same eye line that we had before, so it feels like he's talking to the same person, even though he's really pushing his line reversal. So we reverse it back up that way, and here it's really conspiratorial. I'll take my little puppet thing here so that I can kind of lean his head a little bit the other way. I want to compress this side of the face and open up this side of the face. It's all about squash and stretch inside the character, and I really like doing that inside the face as well. So we dial this back. I want to get a nice flow from this arm because it's a primary open side. So here we have a good flow running through the arms. We have a good line coming up through here, nice S line through the top. And you'll see here this also has a nice S line to the line of action, and the arms kind of drop off. There's not too much of a line in them, but now we start pulling your visuals, all the lines lead up to the face. And here I want to keep that same strong feeling going, so I want to make sure that this arm kind of catches. If it does catch your attention hanging out here, I want it to flow up into the face, okay? Because to me that's really important, to have all the flow lines working together. And if you don't know what flow lines are about, I hate to sound like an advertisement, but go ahead and pick up one of the first 2 or 3 VTSs, because we talk all about flow lines and what that stuff's all about. Okay, so I want to get another nice S-curve in the body, and you'd think, wow, he's doing a lot of S-curves for a fat guy. If you can get away with it, do it. Now his head's kind of losing some of its shape there doing that, and that's okay. Another thing you like to try and do is get some some twist in the body. If he's flat to the camera the whole time, it's not particularly interesting to look at. So I want to kind of build some more twist into the torso, because that adds tension and energy to the character, to make sure that he's doing, he's got a flow, he's got some weight to him. There's something to him that's more than just, look, I'm staring straight at a camera the whole time, and that feels very dead and tends to suck the life out of things. And so I really want to be mindful of being able to do that. Alright, and let's see, here's that. We're all looking pretty good, relatively pretty good there. The eye line's still a little bit off, but I can jump back. Feels like he's sort of looking in the same place, just a little high. And what he could do here is we can adjust this a bit. Going back here, okay, so he's looking up in this area, he's looking up in this area. Okay, so that sort of works. I don't like this arm, it's feeling very uncomfortable. If I were to get up and act that arm out, that wouldn't feel too good. Since I don't like this arm, I want to try and close it in. One of the things I notice a lot of times, people will say, oh, I need silhouette, so what they'll do is they'll stick the out, and it just that requires a certain level of energy that doesn't feel natural. I mean, it feels like he's trying too hard there. So I want to have the elbow bent a bit, but I also want there to be a sense of kind of a comfortableness for the character inside of his own weight. So let me go ahead and nudge this a bit so I get a nice flow there. Maybe get that shoulder up, and then take this shoulder and drop it down a bit. I always like to have weight inside the pose so it looks like the character has meat on his bones, and that he has to, has to hold himself and things like that. And a lot of times that really just does depend on how you go ahead and... Oh, there's my little email thing flashing up. That was enjoyable. Sorry about that. A lot of it just depends on the angle of the arms and how the shoulders are held and how the torso is held, and so I'm kind of liking that one. I don't like some of the junk in this silhouette over here, and I can maybe nudge this over to kind of clean that up some, because the silhouette on that edge right there is not too happy, but I clean that up later. Okay, so I got the body sort of working. If I go from that to that, it's a nice fun change. But the face is the same, and I don't want to completely change the face, but at the same time I don't want to keep this face. Remember, I want to close off the right hand side and open up the left hand side. And notice that's going to be a reversal of this one right here. And I tend to think that way. The closed up, if you draw lines, you'll see that I'm kind of pinching or squashing the right hand side of the face and stretching the left hand side of the face, screen left. Here I make an opposite. I kind of open up the right hand side and squash the left hand side, and I want to reverse that. So here I want to be able to do that again. Now I'll bring over my facial controls for this stuff and make that a little bit bigger and get rid of the grid thing. Oh, I suppose I can get rid of the grids by just doing that. Okay. Somebody wrote and asked me, hey, do you really spend that much time blocking in your faces? Doesn't that waste time? Doesn't that, I've always been taught or always heard that you animate the face first. Whoops, got to turn this on. You animate the body first, and once the body's working, then you do the face at the very end. And yeah, generally, I'm not going to clean up the face now, but I like to have, I do spend this kind of time on the face because it helps me. It just helps me see the character in that emotional moment at that time. So what I like to do is take the time to go ahead and put the face into a shape for the moment so that I can sell it. You see, because it's important to be able to sell this stuff to the director. And if you go in there with just the body moving around, the director kind of has to guess or fill in the blanks about what your stuff looks like. So for me, the important thing about blocking is to sell the idea. More than anything, you want to go into dailies and you want people to know exactly what your character's feeling and pretty much exactly how they're going to move through their space and perform that moment. So for me, the face actually informs that quite a bit. So by taking some time up front to make the face work, I really do prefer to work on it a little bit, just to give it the kind of attention it needs to be able to sell it. Okay, so we want to open this side up a little bit more, and I'm going to play a little bit with the shape of this mouth just because it helps a little keep it nice and appealing. And he's kind of saying ready, so I'm going to do kind of an feel. Not too much, just something. You can't get too crazy with the left or rights. It's a little bit difficult with his nose at times. Some angles don't work too great for some characters. You always got to find the good angle for your characters, as far as making their faces look good. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll pull this up a bit. We'll take this brow and pull it down a little bit, just to kind of give it a little bit of something. Alright, just to play this line in the inside. This is messing with the lower lid here. Just want to give the eye a nice flow to it. I want a nice line to feel in like compressing this side of the face and opening this side of the face. So that's a relatively rough look at it, and you can always clean this stuff up later as you get into cleanup and as you get into doing the fine parts of making your performance just a little bit better, getting into the details. But this is all the important stuff that you need to do, pretty much right up front to sell that moment, to kind of get that across. You know what I mean? Just that little bit of a moment where it's very clear to people what your character's thinking and how they're acting and all that stuff. So let's see, we'll pull that down, rotate that to kind of tuck that. Let's see, tuck that over there. We don't want to go too crazy with it. And try and pull that down a bit. With any good face rig, people ask me about this face rig. Hey, is that an automated face rig? I wish. No, not really. It's really constructed from scratch by me. The one thing that you're going to find with face rigs, the really powerful ones are easy to break. And by break, I mean do things that don't look good. It's easy to take this thing, just pull stuff off, and make it not look good. You got to give yourself the freedom when you're rigging. I know this isn't a rigging course, but you got to, like, I can pull that in so that his teeth stick out of his face. You got to give yourself the freedom to be able to build stuff that looks good. And to do that, you have to give yourself the freedom to build stuff that looks bad. And you have to trust that the animator is going to do the right thing and make it look good. There we go. Now we're starting to get that look the way I want. Okay, so there's that one. So let's go ahead and key the entire face. Oops, I need to turn on my little trigger thing. So let's see, turn that on. Okay, and load. A little bit of technical junk here for you folks. Sorry about that. I generally don't like to worry about too much of that stuff, but there we go. So I've keyed his face controls. Alright, good stuff. So let's take a look at this pose and how it fits together with the other poses. Starting at the beginning, waiting. Space Marshal Murray Oplinski reporting for duty. And then we're going to hit Sir. Okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll select all the controls for the character and we'll just key them to make sure that they're holding up the way I want them to. This little blue button right here, this little plus, is it's just a little trigger I made to select all the wire controls. It's nothing too terribly fancy or crazy. It's just a shortcut to help speed things along. And I try not to use those too much in these videos. I'm actually only using maybe 1/4 of my little shortcut tools to try and slow this down a little bit. And since I'm talking through this, trying to make it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing and easier to see what's going on. So now let's move on to the next pose, and we'll take a look at that here in just a second. So here, let's take a look at that next pose we want to do. Alright, so we've done this one, here, and now we want to have him snap up into Sir. So I've got some stuff here talking about how I want to lag the hand. That's from the the thumbnailing phase, VTS16. We're not going to deal with that stuff right now. Again, just want to deal with the major blocking of this thing, which is all the major pose hits, where you're getting these different beats, where you're reversing lines and getting strong poses. Okay, so let's take a look at putting this guy up into a snap. Now, I kind of like what the body is doing here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of copy, turn that off. I'm just going to copy what the torso is doing and take that frame and kind of come over here to this frame without updating and key it. You can do that in Maya, or I could come here and I can do copy, go here and do paste. And so the head's a little messed up, but I'm just going to use that as a starting point. It's like copying from a drawing, really. I don't really want it to be the same, but I like some of the flavor of it, so I just use it as a jumping off point. It's a nice clean way of getting into and out of things. And so I know there's some people who say, well, you got to build everything from scratch for it to be perfect and right and good and true from the heart and all that stuff. And I'm not quite so sure that that's always the case. I mean, good traditional animators will copy from drawings. They'll take a previous drawing and say, oh, I'll use this, or as they do cleanup, you're always kind of building on previous ideas. So don't be afraid to take a previous idea and build on it. And we'll take this, and we want to make sure that the head has a nice feel to it. Probably take this guy and put it back to 0 so that all this stuff feels right. Of course the eye is going to be in the wrong place, but that's okay. Take this arm and we'll just quick put it up into a kind of a goofy salute and put the hand up. And let's see, I'm going to have to jump to my other view to be able to select his hand control. Alright, so we'll take all these and just set them to 0 so then I can... gotta go a little slower than that, don't I, huh? And let's see, just go ahead and get the spread, move it into negative territory, just so we can get it sort of working. And he's got these big meaty hands, so that's always going to be a challenge trying to make that work with the face. It's an aspect of the character design that could have been better, but you know, sometimes you have to make these kind of sacrifices to do the things you want to do to get the character looking the way you want. So this is what I want to be able to do here. Pull this down, get that working, get that working, so we have kind of a goofy looking salute for this guy. Because why? Because he's goofy, that's why. So we want it over the brow. Here's a good opportunity for this arm again to flow out. Here it's okay to pull the elbow out. You know, I was just talking about, well, don't pull the elbow out, it takes too much energy. Sometimes you want to show a character, you know, exuding energy. I mean, a salute is not a relaxed state of being, okay? That's why, you know, after men salute, the officer says, "At ease," which is a way of saying, "Take it easy, guys." Saluting is a very energetic, static pose, if that makes any sense at all. It's something that has a lot of energy to it, but you're not moving. So there's a lot of it's to show a soldier at readiness, a position of he can go and he can make a go of it. You know, just any moment here, at any moment he can go and do his thing. And so you want to show a sense of potential energy in a salute, which means you want to show a lot of built up possibilities. And so pulling that elbow out a little bit helps me do that. It says he's ready to move in a direction. You know, he's not relaxed. This is not a relaxed state for him. Salutes are not relaxed. I guess that's the quicker way to say all this stuff. And so we get the head. We'll pull this just a little bit this way, just to kind of get that line going. Now, we want it to just look good to this screen right here, and we definitely want it to have a certain proper feel to it. We want it to read. The most important thing for any pose is that it reads. I mean, yeah, you can look for good lines and all that stuff, but if you can have great flow and all that other stuff, and if it doesn't read, if the idea doesn't come across, you're kind of wasting your time. Okay, so there he is. Just as a reminder, let me take a look at this. Still smiling, but firm in his face. So we don't really have to do too much to the face here. We can almost let it go the way it was before. We'll just add little touches to the face. Kind of like the idea of him being a little bit further up, you know, like the head, instead of it's like it's up, it's ready for action, and pulled back a bit so that it feels like I am ready. You've got the full attention of me. Okay, so then we turn on being able to pick our little things here, and we mess around with building our faces again. The eyes are important. You always want to make sure that the eyes read and carry the emotion that you want. If the lid is too heavy, it doesn't carry the emotion that you want. So you want the lid to be there. Maybe a little more crunch to the brows, but not too much. I want to close this face off, this side of the face off a little bit. Not too much again. Just it's sort of carrying the same beat from before, but it's just in a emotionally it's kind of the same place. But I want it to be real strong down the middle here, like a really strong V, like I'm really ready. Okay, but we don't want him to seem like he's super mad or anything because he's smiling. So you just got to study brows and see what works. And like a fuming or a steaming brow, or someone who's like really mad, you'll find that the outsides don't go up too high. That's more of an energetic angry. If you want to make a character seem really mad, you're going to flatten this stuff out. Now that's starting to crunch into itself a little bit there, but that's okay. But you're going to flatten the, like if I was going to make him more angry, I would flatten it off more. But I'm going to undo that because I want it to feel more like, it's a smiling frown rather than, a not smiling frown, if that makes any sense. Okay. So he says sir, so I'm going to build a little bit of an R shape into this mouth. Why? Because why not? I know he's saying sir at this moment. I mean, I've done my planning and my blocking and in my thumbnailing. I know what he's saying and when he hits this pose. So if I know he's saying sir, why not just go ahead and build some of that R shape in there? Because if you can do it here, then you're already one step ahead of the game. And sir doesn't always have to be, that R doesn't always have to be super tight. You notice I don't like to make the mouth the same shape on both sides. It's more of a facial animation thing, but there's asymmetry in everything we do, and in faces. To me, when somebody starts making the right side of the face of the mouth and the left side of the mouth do the same thing, I'm guessing they're either using a preset library or they're not being imaginative enough with how they go ahead and use the face. You want to have that asymmetry because that's life. And so I'm going to close off this side a little bit more, but have this side stretched out a bit, and that's fine. Because it just has a nice appealing feel to it. And we'll keep this side crunched up just because, why not? It looks good. Take the squint down a little bit, take the nasal down a little bit, and take this nasal and move it up a bit. And we'll take this squint and move it up a bit, just kind of even off the face. And we'll take this lid and we'll pull it up a bit. Alright, so looking at all that, we key that guy. And for those of you who haven't seen this before, just a quick overview. This is just a simple little interface. Each of these little things is selected, and it selects, each of these is wired into a parameter. So I have squashing of the eyes, which is broken right now in the rig. Squint underneath the eyes, something that controls the nasal area of the face. Each of these represents parts of the lips. This is general overall stuff. So you can zipper the lip in from either side. That side. These are the corners of the mouth. This is the forward and back of the corners. I like to keep that stuff independent because if you try and do too much with one controller, you get less control. Does that make any sense? Like if all you have is up and down controlling a smile. Well, a smile is constructed of mouth to the side, corner, so the corner is out, the corner is up, and the corner is also back. Those are the constructions of a smile because you're pulling the muscles back here. The mouth just doesn't get wider and go up, it also pulls back. But if you just have one slider, you can't control and make different shades of smiles, and you also can't do different combinations of shapes. So that's just a little pet peeve of mine about building face rigs, is you always want to give yourself, come over here and, okay, maybe, there we go. You always want to give yourself room to construct things. Now this side isn't going to look too good because I didn't build the camera, I didn't build it to look through that camera over there. But you want to give yourself room to just build custom shapes, because that's where you get subtlety in your performance just by the slightest little changes of shape. So, but this again isn't a rigging DVD or a rigging course, but it's important to talk about rigging because so often we have to deal with it. So, alright, so here's what we got him. Let me select all of his controllers and hit that and see how that feels coming into and out of that. Alright, again, like to roll through my drawings. Again, you notice all these poses, they're just the major poses. We're not doing all these little in-betweens just yet. We're just trying to hit the major poses and make sure we get everything working the way we want. Okay? And something about this face moving back, I kind of want it to feel like he's coming up. This could be pushed a little bit more. And this is when I talk about going back and polishing things, you can push things a little bit more. And this is what you would do in traditional as well. Is you would go and you would look at a drawing and you'd say, I can make that drawing stronger. And by making that stronger, you make your animation a little bit stronger. And in this cartoony sense, it's really going to work. So what I want to do is I really want to push this a little bit more so that there's a nice strong push to it. Just a little bit more. Happy trees. I feel like Bob Ross when I do this stuff. Happy trees. Remember him? Guy with the afro would paint on television. It's good stuff. Okay. So that way when he comes back, he snaps back into it. Now, I don't like this leftward, the screen left kind of leaning Tower of Pisa feel to him. So I want to kind of pull him back up just a little bit straighter and get a little bit more there. Notice that I'm not, the arm is kind of independent. Nice thing about Anzovin's the setup machine is you do get independent rotation on the arms so that you can adjust lines of actions and things like that inside the torso, but it's not going to mess up too much what your arm is doing and other things like that. So I can't really tout that rigging machine too much because it's good stuff. I mean, I've spent a lot of years rigging a lot of characters, and boy, it gets you really close. So there you go, Raph. A little bit of an advertisement for you. If you guys ever have to rig characters, go out and do yourself a favor. If you use Maya, pick that thing up because it is amazing. It's really good. Okay. We're almost done tweaking this one. There we go. It's a little better. There's some certain aspects about it. The weight inside of himself still just doesn't feel right. He's too far back or something. So I'm going to experiment with this. Another thing is I'm going to stretch him out a little bit. Get him a little more straight up because that's what a salute is like. For salutes, it's like I said, it's very rigid, so we want to stretch him out a little bit. Even though he's stretching here, he'll be stretched there. The trick will be to get the squash and a nice flow of the lines. Now I can imagine the in-between these two. The breakdown is going to have a nice flow to it. I can see the arm having a nice arc up, coming right up this way, so you can see the arm just snapping up. I can imagine these things happening as I look at my poses. Okay. Just want to be able to pull this up a bit. There's something about the weight, and sometimes this is what happens. Sometimes you just get stuck trying to make something work right. I mean, traditional animators will struggle with this, where they'll be like, they'll draw the same drawing. Glenn Keane said he spent a day just trying to get one drawing right, and I know that feeling because sometimes in CG you just want to get this one pose right. And you may say, well, you're wasting a lot of time here. Not really, because again, it's all about clarity. It's all about selling it. And if you can sell it, if you can get that one thing done and the director buys it and it's really clear about what you're trying to accomplish, then you don't have to touch this thing again. I mean, this is done and done. But you just gotta sometimes you got to be careful not to overdo it, and sometimes you got to be careful not to underdo it. So it's really just about catching the flavor of that moment. And I think this right here is part of it. Is I think the top of the eyebrows are just a bit on the high side. So let me go ahead and turn on the ability to select these things. There we go. Just a little something. Alright. I mean, for better or for worse, that's not too shabby. I've seen worse poses than that. Let me just touch that up a bit. Touch that down a bit just to get a little bit more of that zipper going. There we go. Get a bit more of that sir thing moving. Not too much. And this zipper's nice and tight. And get this guy up a bit. And get this guy down a little bit. Just want to get our... There we go. You may say to yourself, why in the world is he wasting all this time? Well, you wanna make sure that your stuff's working the right way. So let me go ahead and turn this in a little bit just to give a little more of that. Just turning that wrist in just gives it some more energy. You know what I mean? Turning this elbow out just a little bit, again, a little bit more energy. And then what you're going to notice is as time goes by, there's a flow to this, and it just kind of happens. And I'll go ahead and I'll tilt this hand down a little bit. Take this guy and take the fingers down just a little bit, and then take this hand and I want to make it feel like it reads, but I also want a nice flow. See, now this is where you're going to notice, this is where I'm starting to worry about the specifics of, well, flow lines and things. I mean, they're in there, but I don't really start noodling the stuff until I've got all the major stuff working. So if I take the forearm bend, oh gosh, is any of this stuff going to work? Or is it driven by something else? Let's see what it's driven by. It's driven by that. Alright. There's certain things that this rig can do as far as... Whoa, that's not really what I had in mind. I can slide the elbow, which may or may not be useful. In this case, getting this finger up over the eye might be useful. Getting the arm to bend in the X would be nice, but it doesn't look like it's working. Sometimes you start working with a rig and it just doesn't work the way you expect it to, and that's okay. We can work around it. Okay, so I think that's a good place for us to stop this month. I know I didn't get through all of them, and what I'm going to do next month, we got to this, and we've got these little poses right here, this correction and this in between. What I'm going to do next month is these two poses will already be done. Okay, I'm not going to walk you through each of them, but we are going to talk about being at the end of our blocking conversation, and I'll show you how I time this stuff out. Some past VTSs have already covered that, but we'll show it again just to show a working process to these things. So again, guy's waiting for his boss. Let's pick somebody to go off of. Turn off those curves. Alright, waiting for his boss. Tries to impress the boss. A little bit of "you can count on me, boss," and then "you betcha I'm really ready to go." Nice fun stuff. Good strong clear poses. Good reversive lines. And it's really just about keeping stuff appealing and fun and energetic and keeping the right energy. And you notice that I'm using my thumbnails as a jumping off point, if it would come up. These are things that I jump off from, but I'm not... I mean, this thumbnail isn't as strong as this drawing is, and that's fine. In fact, this picture over here, the one that's actually rendered, should be stronger, should be better, because I've had more time to work on it. And you'll notice that in each of these, with all this stuff. I mean, if we were to take a look at this pose versus this thumbnail, this is much stronger than this. And that's good. That's the way you want it to be. You want your final stuff to be as strong as possible. Alright, so that's me for this month. I apologize for the no frills version of this VTS, but we're in the middle of moving. I'm doing this from a hotel room. Fantastic. And tomorrow I get on a plane and I fly to Brazil, and it's going to be fun and fantastic, and you guys and your support have been wonderful, and I thank you very much for it. And so next month, in the month of July, we're going to have all these poses in there, and then we'll start talking about some other things. And I'll probably go ahead and fill in the breakdowns to start showing you more of how I animate this stuff, to kind of give you a full picture of everything wrapped together. So that's what we got for this month, and get ready to wrap it up here.
Well, hello there. I hope that was helpful to you. I always have fun doing these kinds of things. I mean, just it's animating. You know, what could be more fun than animating? Okay, lots of things could be more fun than animating, but animating is pretty darn fun. I enjoy doing it. So, anyways, we'll keep going with what we're going with, and we'll try and get this thing wrapped up next month if we can. And I hope that a lot of the things I covered and explained really filled in the blanks for you and things like that. Next month, I'll be broadcasting. Is it broadcasting? I don't know. I'll be download casting from Brazil. I'll be all moved in down there, and in July we'll do VTS16, where we're going to continue this acting blocking thread, and we try and wrap up some things and start filling in some more blanks for you. I do appreciate you guys' presence and your patience. I know sometimes it's a bit crazy because Keith moves too much. He's always moving. Well, that's kind of the case it is in this business. You do kind of pick up and move a bit. But anyways, thanks for playing along. I hope you guys have a great and wonderful June. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, summer's here. Enjoy it. For those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, well, bundle up. In the meantime, you guys be good to each other. Thanks for being a part of the VTS. And next month, we'll see you there. Don't tell